Marcus Webb sat on the worn couch in his small apartment, staring at his phone. His hands shook as he read the email again. After 6 years of rejection, he finally got his big break. "I can't believe it," he whispered to himself. Growing up on Chicago's South Side, Marcus always dreamed of becoming an actor. His mother worked 2 jobs to support them after his father left, but she always encouraged his dreams. In high school, teachers noticed his talent in school plays. Even then, people said he had something special. After college, Marcus moved to Los Angeles with only $800 and big hopes. The reality of Hollywood hit him hard. For years, he worked as a waiter while going to countless auditions. He got small roles in commercials and TV shows, but nothing important. Many times, he thought about giving up and going back home. Then came the email that changed everything. Victor Harrington, one of Hollywood's most powerful directors, wanted Marcus to audition for his new war drama, Brothers in Arms. The audition room felt cold and intimidating. 5 serious people sat at a long table, with Victor Harrington in the center. He was a tall man with sharp features and cold blue eyes that seemed to look right through Marcus. "Whenever you're ready," Victor said, his voice flat. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and transformed. The room disappeared as he became the character, a soldier who just lost his best friend in battle. His voice cracked with emotion as he delivered his lines. When he finished, there was complete silence. Victor stood up, something he rarely did during auditions. "That's exactly what I've been looking for," he said with a rare smile. "The role is yours." 2 weeks later, Marcus found himself on set with famous actors he had only seen in movies. At first, he felt out of place, but Victor seemed to believe in him. The director spent extra time working with Marcus, pushing him to dig deeper into emotional scenes. "You have raw talent," Victor told him one day after a difficult scene. "Don't waste it." The film took 3 months to shoot. When it premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, the audience gave it a standing ovation. Critics wrote about the powerful new talent in Marcus Webb. One review called his performance a revelation that will change Hollywood. Soon, Marcus's phone wouldn't stop ringing. His agent called with offers for new roles. Magazines wanted interviews. People recognized him at restaurants. At 27, after years of struggle, Marcus Webb became an overnight success. "Your performance was unforgettable," a famous producer told him at an after-party. "Victor has a gift for discovering new talent, especially among your people." Marcus smiled politely, ignoring the subtle racism in the comment. Nothing could ruin this moment for him. In his small apartment, now filled with flowers and congratulation cards, Marcus called his mother. "Mom, we did it," he said, tears in his eyes. "All those years of struggle paid off." "I always knew you would make it," she said, her voice proud. "This is just the beginning." Marcus couldn't know how right she was, but not in the way either of them expected. His rise to fame had been fast, but the journey ahead would test everything about him. And the man who gave him his big break would soon become his biggest nightmare. 6 months after Brothers in Arms became a hit, Marcus Webb found himself on the set of Midnight Crossing, another Victor Harrington project. This time, Marcus had a bigger role as the second lead character. The movie was about 2 detectives tracking a serial killer, and Marcus played the younger, more idealistic partner. The first week of filming went smoothly. Marcus arrived early each day, knew all his lines, and got along well with the crew. His co-star, James Bennett, a veteran actor with 3 Oscar nominations, often praised Marcus's natural talent. "You got something special, kid," James told him during a break. "I had to learn what comes naturally to you." Everything changed during the second week when they shot an important scene. Marcus's character confronted a suspect, and he decided to try a different approach than what was in the script. He made his character more controlled, using quiet intensity instead of the shouting match written in the script. Cut. Victor's sharp voice echoed across the set. The director stormed over to Marcus, his face red with anger. "What was that supposed to be?" "I thought maybe he would be more calculating here," Marcus explained. It felt more authentic to the character. Victor's cold blue eyes narrowed. "You're paid to act, not think. Do it as written." They tried the scene again, and again, and again. After the 7th take, with Victor rejecting each one, the tension on set was thick. Other actors and crew members avoided eye contact, pretending to be busy with other tasks. Maybe we should take a short break, James suggested. We'll break when I say so, Victor snapped. He turned to Marcus. You're making a simple scene impossible. Just do your job. Marcus nodded, swallowing his frustration. On the 8th take, he performed exactly as the script described. Victor finally called, "Cut and print," but his face showed no satisfaction. After that day, Victor's treatment of Marcus changed completely. He criticized everything Marcus did, his line readings, his movements, even the way he stood in frame. During lunch breaks, Marcus noticed Victor watching him with cold, calculating eyes. One afternoon, Marcus overheard Victor talking to the cinematographer when they thought no one was around. "These black actors always want to do their own thing," Victor said with a sigh. "They have natural rhythm but no discipline. I made a mistake casting him." Marcus froze behind the equipment truck where he had been checking his phone. His hands trembled as he put his phone away. Should he confront Victor or stay quiet to protect his career? That night in his trailer, Marcus called his mother. "I don't know what to do, Mom," he said. "This man gave me my big break, but now he treats me like dirt." "Remember what Grandpa always said," his mother replied. "Standing up for yourself might cost you, but not standing up costs you your soul." The next day, Marcus requested a private meeting with Victor. In the director's trailer, Marcus took a deep breath and spoke from his heart. "I respect you as a director, but I feel like you're treating me differently from everyone else. If I've done something wrong, please tell me directly." Victor leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "You're imagining things, but since you mention it, your attitude has been problematic. This is my set, my vision. If you can't handle direction, maybe you're not cut out for this business." Marcus left the meeting feeling worse than before. He didn't know it yet, but Victor Harrington had already decided to destroy Marcus Webb's rising career. The whispers had already begun. Despite the tension with Victor, Marcus worked hard to finish Midnight Crossing. When the filming ended, the cast and crew celebrated with a party. Everyone seemed happy and relaxed. Everyone except Victor, who barely spoke to Marcus. "Don't worry about him," James told Marcus at the party, nodding toward Victor, who stood in a corner talking to some executives. "The movie is great, and your performance is solid. This will open more doors for you." Marcus wanted to believe him. After all, his first movie with Victor had changed his life. Surely his career would continue to rise. 3 weeks later, Marcus sat across from his agent, Lisa, in her modern office with glass walls and a view of Hollywood Hills. Her expression was serious as she looked at her computer screen. "It's strange," she said, frowning. "Remember that role in the new Spielberg film we discussed? They went with someone else." "These things happen," Marcus replied with a shrug. "What about the Netflix series?" Lisa clicked her mouse a few times. "They also passed. Said they're going in a different direction." Over the next month, a pattern emerged. Projects that seemed certain suddenly vanished. Directors who had expressed interest stopped returning calls. Something was wrong, but Marcus couldn't figure out what. One evening, Marcus bumped into Sarah, a casting director he knew, at a coffee shop. After some small talk, Sarah looked around nervously before leaning closer. "I shouldn't tell you this," she whispered, "but someone is saying things about you. Bad things." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What kind of things? Who's saying them?" "Victor Harrington. He's telling everyone you were difficult on set, that you showed up late, didn't know your lines, argued with the crew." She paused. "And that you played the race card when you got criticism." Marcus sat back, stunned. None of it was true. He was always professional, always prepared. Why would he do this? Sarah shrugged. "Because he can. You challenged him, and men like Victor don't forget that." On his drive home, Marcus called James, who had become a friend during filming. "I've heard the rumors," James admitted. "I tried to tell people they weren't true, but..." His voice trailed off. "But what?" "Victor has been in this business for 30 years. He's friends with every important producer and studio head. People listened to him." The next few months became a nightmare. Marcus's phone stopped ringing. Lisa, his agent, became harder to reach. When he finally got an audition for a small role in a TV show, the producer seemed cold and distant before Marcus even began reading. One day, Lisa called him to her office. She looked uncomfortable as Marcus sat down. I need to be honest with you, Marcus. I can't get you work. Not in this town. Not right now. Because of Victor's lies. Lisa nodded. I tried everything, but his influence is too strong. So you're dropping me? Marcus asked, his voice hollow. I'm sorry, Marcus. This business is my livelihood too. Walking to his car, Marcus felt numb. In just 6 months, he had gone from rising star to Hollywood outcast. His bank account was shrinking fast. Soon, he wouldn't be able to pay rent. That night, Marcus sat alone in his apartment, looking at old pictures from the Brothers in Arms set. How quickly everything had changed. He thought about giving up, moving back to Chicago. But something inside him refused to be broken by lies. He picked up his phone and made a list of small independent producers who might not care about Victor's opinion. If Hollywood's front doors were closed to him, he would find a back door. He would not let Victor Harrington have the last word in his story. 18 months after his confrontation with Victor, Marcus Webb's life looked completely different. The fancy apartment was gone, replaced by a small one-bedroom place in a forgotten corner of Los Angeles. The calls from big directors had stopped. The invitations to exclusive parties no longer came. Marcus stared at his bank account on his laptop screen and rubbed his tired eyes. After paying next month's rent, he would have just $342 left. Not enough. His phone rang. It was Danny, a producer friend who still talked to him. I might have something for you, Danny said. It's not much, a small role in a horror movie. 3 days of shooting, 1 speaking scene. How much? Marcus asked. $2,000. I know it's not what you're worth, but... I'll take it, Marcus said quickly. This had become his new reality. Small roles in low-budget movies that barely paid the bills. Sometimes he worked as an extra, standing in the background of scenes, making $100 a day. Once, he even saw Victor on one of these sets, directing a big-budget action movie. Victor had looked right through him as if he didn't exist. After finishing the horror movie role, Marcus visited his mother in Chicago. He tried to sound positive on the phone, but mothers always know when something is wrong. You've lost weight, she said when she met him at the airport. In her small house, over dinner, Marcus finally told her everything about Victor's lies, about being blacklisted, about the struggle to find work. Maybe it's time to come home, his mother suggested gently. You could teach drama at the community center. The kids would love learning from someone with your experience. For a moment, Marcus considered it. Life would be easier. He could be near family. No more rejection. But then he thought about Victor winning, about his dreams dying because one powerful man decided to crush him. I can't give up yet, Mom, he said. I've worked too hard. Back in Los Angeles, Marcus got a job as a waiter, the same job he had when he first moved to the city. The restaurant was near a major studio, and sometimes directors and producers came in for lunch. A few recognized him. Weren't you in that war movie? One director asked while Marcus poured his water. You were excellent. What happened to you? Marcus gave a polite smile but didn't answer. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, the restaurant was nearly empty when a young actress named Tanya came in alone. Marcus had worked with her on a small TV project the year before. She looked uncomfortable when she saw him. I didn't know you worked here, she said. Got to pay the bills, Marcus replied with a forced smile. After taking her order, Marcus noticed Tanya was upset. When he brought her food, he asked if everything was okay. I just had an audition with Victor Harrington, she said, her voice shaking. He said some terrible things to me, made some suggestions about how I could get the part. Marcus sat down across from her. Did he touch you? She shook her head. No, but his words were enough. I left. She looked at Marcus with sad eyes. I heard what he did to your career. You're not the only one, you know. What do you mean? There are others, mostly black actors, some women of all races. People he's destroyed because they stood up to him or rejected him. She took a sip of water. Everyone's afraid to speak out because of his power. For the first time in months, Marcus felt something besides despair. If what Tanya said was true, Victor had a pattern of behavior, and patterns could be exposed. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Tanya's words, about other victims out there. Maybe his career was in ruins. What if his story was just one piece of a bigger picture? What if his professional exile wasn't the end, but the beginning of something else entirely? Marcus wiped down tables after the lunch rush, his mind still on what Tanya had told him. As he worked, a woman sat down in his section. She had short black hair, rectangular glasses, and typed rapidly on her laptop. "Just a coffee, please," she said without looking up. When Marcus returned with her coffee, he noticed the article on her screen. The headline read, "Hollywood's Power Dynamics. Who really controls the industry?" "Are you a journalist?" he asked. The woman looked up, studying his face. "Sophia Chen, from The Truth Seeker. I write about power abuses in entertainment." She tilted her head. "Wait, aren't you Marcus Webb, from Brothers in Arms?" Marcus nodded, surprised anyone still remembered. "I've been trying to find you," Sophia said, closing her laptop. "Do you have a minute to talk?" They arranged to meet after his shift at a quiet coffee shop 2 blocks away. Marcus was curious but cautious. Journalists had not been kind to him since his fall from grace. Sophia arrived with a thick folder. "I've been investigating Victor Harrington for 8 months," she explained, opening the folder. "Your name kept coming up." "My name? Why?" "Because what happened to you follows a pattern." She spread several documents on the table. "Look at these." Marcus saw newspaper clippings, printouts of emails, and photographs. All featured black actors who had worked with Victor and then mysteriously disappeared from major productions. David Washington, 2010, got into an argument with Victor about his character's dialogue was labeled difficult. Never worked in a major studio film again. Sophia pointed to another photo. Jamal Peters, 2015. Questioned Victor's direction of a scene with racial stereotypes. Suddenly, all his auditions dried up. Marcus felt his heart beating faster. "How many?" "I've confirmed 7 cases over 20 years. All black actors, all talented, all blacklisted after standing up to Victor." For 2 hours, Sophia shared her research. She had interviews with crew members who witnessed Victor's behavior, copies of emails where Victor warned producers about problem actors, and even a recorded conversation where Victor used racial slurs when discussing talent. "Why hasn't anyone exposed him?" Marcus asked. "Fear," Sophia said simply. "Victor isn't just a director. His family has connections to 3 major studios. He's friends with everyone who matters in this town." Marcus sat back, overwhelmed. "So what can I do? My career is already ruined." Sophia leaned forward. "That's exactly why you're important. You have nothing left to lose." The next day, Marcus called Tanya and asked if she would connect him with others who had problems with Victor. One person led to another. Soon, Marcus had a small notebook filled with names and stories. He met a black actress who was cut from Victor's film after rejecting his advances. An Asian actor who was mocked for his accent. A gay screenwriter whose script was stolen after he complained about Victor's homophobic jokes. Most wouldn't go on record, but they shared details that matched and confirmed patterns in Sophia's research. One evening, Marcus visited James Bennett, his co-star from Midnight Crossing. James welcomed him warmly but looked nervous. "I should have done more to help you," James admitted. "I saw how Victor treated you." "Why didn't you?" Marcus asked without judgment. James sighed heavily. "Because I'm a coward. Because my next project was with Victor. Because it was easier to look away." He met Marcus's eyes. "But I'm ready to speak up now." As Marcus drove home that night, he felt something he hadn't felt in nearly 2 years: hope. Victor Harrington had destroyed his career, but maybe that destruction had a purpose. Maybe Marcus had to lose everything to find a new path, not just for himself, but for others. In his apartment, Marcus called Sophia. "I'm in," he said. "Whatever it takes. Let's expose him." Marcus woke up each morning with a new purpose. His apartment wall now held a large board covered with photos, notes, and red strings connecting related events. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice. Sophia visited twice a week, bringing new information and contacts. They worked together, carefully documenting each story about Victor's abusive behavior. "We need more people willing to speak on the record," Sophia said one evening, looking at their evidence board. "Anonymous sources help with research, but they won't be enough in court." Marcus nodded. "I'll try James again." He seemed ready last time we talked. That night, Marcus called James, who had become a steady ally over the past weeks. "I've been thinking about what you asked," James said, "about speaking publicly against Victor." And Marcus held his breath. "I'll do it. I've been in this business 30 years. If I can't stand up for what's right now, when will I?" Marcus smiled. "Thank you, James. You have no idea how much this means." With James on board, others began to find courage. A camera operator who had worked on 3 of Victor's films agreed to share his experiences. Then a makeup artist, then an assistant director. Each new voice made their case stronger. Marcus also took a big risk. He contacted his old agent, Lisa, who had dropped him when things got tough. "Why should I help you?" Lisa asked when they met for coffee. "Victor could destroy my agency if he wanted to." "Because deep down, you know what he did was wrong," Marcus said, "and because you once believed in me." Lisa looked away, then sighed. "I have some emails. Victor specifically told me not to represent you anymore. He made threats. Would you share them with us?" After a long pause, Lisa nodded. "I'll have them sent to Sofia tomorrow." As their evidence grew, Marcus and Sofia consulted with a lawyer named Michael Torres, who specialized in entertainment industry cases. "This is impressive work," Michael said, reviewing their files. "But a lawsuit against someone like Victor Harrington won't be easy. He'll have the best lawyers money can buy." "We have the truth," Marcus said. Michael smiled sadly. "Truth needs strong evidence to win in court. Are you sure you want to do this? The process will be painful. Your personal life will be examined. Any mistake you've ever made will be used against you." Marcus thought about his options. He could walk away, maybe find work in small independent films, perhaps teach acting classes, but then Victor would continue hurting others. "I'm sure," Marcus said firmly. "What's our next step?" "We file a lawsuit alleging discrimination, defamation, and interference with business relationships," Michael explained. "Then we prepare for war." That night, Marcus called his mother. "We're filing the lawsuit next week," he told her. "Are you scared?" she asked. "Terrified," Marcus admitted, "but also at peace. For the first time since this all began, I feel like I'm doing something that matters." "I'm proud of you, son," his mother said, her voice warm. "Your father would be proud too." The day before filing the lawsuit, Marcus met with the small group willing to go public with him. James was there, along with 2 actresses, a screenwriter, and 3 crew members. They gathered in Michael's office, nervous but determined. "Once we file tomorrow, there's no going back." Michael warned them one last time. "Victor will fight dirty. The studios might blacklist all of you. Are you prepared for that?" One by one, they nodded. "Then I have something to say." Marcus stood up, looking at each person in the room. "Thank you. Whatever happens tomorrow, we're standing up for what's right. Victor may have all the power right now, but we have something stronger." "What's that?" asked one of the actresses. Marcus smiled. "Each other. The truth. And nothing left to lose." As they left the office, Marcus felt a strange mix of fear and strength. Tomorrow, their private struggle would become public. The hardest part of their journey was just beginning. The morning the lawsuit was filed, Marcus woke up at 5 a.m., unable to sleep. He checked his phone to find dozens of messages. Sofia had published her investigative article alongside news of the lawsuit, and it was spreading fast across social media. By noon, every major entertainment news outlet had picked up the story. Actor NRCUS Webby leads the store IMNATI lawsuit against Hollywood power player Victor Harrington, read the headlines. Marcus's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Old friends called to offer support. Reporters wanted interviews. Even his former agent Lisa called. "It's crazy out there," she said. "Victor's people are in full damage control mode." By evening, Victor's team released a statement. "These false allegations are an attempt to damage Mr. Harrington's reputation by an actor who couldn't handle criticism. Mr. Harrington has championed diversity throughout his career and looks forward to clearing his name in court." Michael called Marcus immediately after. "This is exactly what we expected. Now the real fight begins." The next morning, Marcus, Sofia, and Michael held a press conference. Cameras flashed as Marcus stepped up to the microphone. This isn't about me or my career, Marcus said, his voice steady despite his nerves. This is about a pattern of discrimination and abuse that has gone unchecked for decades. We have evidence. We have witnesses, and we have the courage to stand up against someone who has used his power to hurt others. As Marcus spoke, he noticed some familiar faces in the crowd, actors and crew members who had worked with Victor. Some looked supportive, others uncomfortable. This was only the beginning. In the days that followed, Hollywood seemed to split into two camps. Many studio executives publicly supported Victor, calling him a creative genius, and the allegations unfortunate misunderstandings. Production companies that worked regularly with Victor issued statements backing him. But cracks were beginning to show. 3 actors from Victor's current project quit. A major studio put their Victor Harrington film on hold. And more victims started coming forward, not just those who had worked with Victor, but people who had experienced similar discrimination from other powerful figures. 2 weeks after filing the lawsuit, Marcus received a phone call from an unknown number. "Is this Marcus Webb?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, who's this?" "My name is Rebecca Williams. I was Victor's assistant for 5 years, until 2018. She paused. "I have emails and recordings." Marcus sat down, his heart racing. "What kind of recordings?" "Victor on the phone with producers, talking about you and others. Using language that," she trailed off. "Let's just say no one should speak that way about another human being." With Rebecca's evidence, the case grew stronger. Michael filed the recordings with the court, and portions were leaked to the media. The public heard Victor's actual voice using racial slurs, mocking actors' backgrounds, and bragging about destroying careers. The industry's support for Victor crumbled overnight. Studios canceled projects. The Directors Guild opened an investigation. Celebrities who had defended him now distanced themselves. At the preliminary hearing, Marcus sat in the courtroom as Victor entered with his team of expensive lawyers. For the first time since their confrontation years ago, their eyes met. Victor looked older, angrier, but also something Marcus hadn't seen before, scared. The judge reviewed the evidence and denied Victor's motion to dismiss. The case would go forward. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed Marcus. "How you feel about the judge's decision?" one shouted. Marcus thought carefully before answering. "This isn't just my victory. It belongs to everyone who spoke up, everyone who shared their story. We still have a long way to go, but today shows that even the most powerful people must answer for their actions." As Marcus walked to his car, his phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Major Studio wants to meet with us tomorrow. Not about the case, about something bigger. This is just the beginning." Marcus looked back at the courthouse steps where Victor stood surrounded by lawyers and reporters. The man who once had the power to destroy careers now fought to save his own. 3 months after the lawsuit began, Marcus sat in a large conference room on the top floor of Summit Studios. Across from him were the studio's CEO, head of production, and several executives. Sophia sat beside him, taking notes. "We want to be part of the solution," the CEO said, looking directly at Marcus. "What happened to you and others was unacceptable. How can we make real change in this industry?" Marcus took a deep breath. For weeks, he had been thinking about this question. It's not enough to remove one bad person. The system that protected Victor needs to change. By the end of the meeting, Marcus had secured funding for a new organization, the Hollywood Accountability Project. Its mission would be to create safe channels for reporting abuse, provide legal support for victims, and push for diversity at all levels of production. Outside the studio, Sophia smiled at Marcus. From blacklisted actor to industry reformer. Not bad. "We're just getting started," Marcus replied. The lawsuit never made it to trial. 1 week before the court date, Victor's lawyers proposed a settlement. The terms included a substantial financial payment to all plaintiffs, a public apology, and Victor's resignation from the Directors Guild. Michael advised them to accept. "We've already won in the court of public opinion. This settlement acknowledges the harm done without the stress of a trial." On the day the settlement was announced, Marcus received a call from an unexpected person, director Ava DuVernay. "I've been following your story," she said. "Your courage has inspired many people, including me. I'm working on a new project about justice and resilience. Would you be interested in reading for a part?" Marcus was speechless for a moment. Yes, of course. Good, Ava replied, and bring your script with you. My script. Sophia mentioned you've been writing. I'd like to see it. After 2 years of exile from major productions, Marcus was acting again. The role in Ava's film wasn't large, but it was meaningful, a lawyer fighting for justice against powerful interests. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. The Hollywood Accountability Project grew quickly. With support from actors, directors, and even some studios, it became an important voice for change. Marcus spoke at industry events, met with studio executives, and mentored young actors from diverse backgrounds. His own script, a drama about a community standing up against corruption, attracted interest from several producers. Eventually, Ava agreed to produce it if Marcus would direct. Me? Direct? Marcus asked, shocked. Who better to tell this story? Ava smiled. Sometimes our path takes unexpected turns for a reason. 5 years after Victor Harrington had tried to destroy his career, Marcus Webb stood on his film set, calling action, for the first time. Many of the crew members were people who had supported him during the lawsuit. James Bennett played a supporting role, and even Tanya, whose conversation had started everything, had a part. On the last day of shooting, Marcus's mother visited the set. She watched proudly as her son directed the final scene. Did you ever imagine this? She asked him during a break. Marcus looked around at the busy set, at the life he had now. Never. I thought my dream was to be a famous actor. But now, I realize my purpose is bigger. 1 month before his film premiered at the Toronto Film Festival, Marcus received a strange envelope with no return address. Inside was a short note. You won. I was wrong. VH. Marcus didn't show the note to anyone. He simply folded it and put it away. This journey had never been about winning or revenge. It was about transformation of an industry, of lives hurt by discrimination, and of Marcus himself. As the lights dimmed at the film festival and his movie began to play, Marcus closed his eyes briefly. The path had been harder and stranger than he ever imagined, but he was exactly where he needed to be. The comeback was complete, but the work of changing Hollywood had only just begun.